Hi, Nate.
Hey, and how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you.
Thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're on the East Coast, right?
I am, yeah, New York.
Okay. Are you in New York City, or are you outside
No,
of?
outside the city. We're out about 2 hours outside the city.
Okay. All right. Have you stayed? You and your family, friends, kind of well and healthy, and
So far, yeah. I mean, we know some people who've contracted COVID, some family friends and such. But our immediate family, so far, so good. We've been in isolation for 7 weeks now. So
okay.
social
Wow.
distancing, we're in sort of a rural area, and that was all by design. So far, so good.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, New York's been hit hard, right? Really hard.
Yeah, we have been back to the city a couple of times.
Okay.
In fact, our daughter went with the mask and gloves to a sort of an applause ceremony outside the hospital in our neighborhood down in Greenwich
Yeah.
Village. And I wasn't with my husband and our daughter on that trip, but we've gone back a couple of times. It's very changed. It's
Yeah. I bet.
the spirit is a little bit compromised at the moment.
I'm
You can
sure.
feel it in the when you're even in the brief moment leaving the car and going into the house. You sort of look around, and
Yeah.
it definitely feels different.
Yeah. How do you find? Are you good with being shut away in a confined space?
No, not at
No.
all. I We're making the best of it. I think, I vacillate. The honest answer is that I vacillate between gratitude and immense gratitude that I have this time to spend with my family and these moments
Yeah.
to spend. My daughter and I, who's 5, we read together every day
Yeah.
with this app that we're working on. She's in pre-kindergarten, so we want to make sure that she doesn't go back and re-enter school in a way that feels like we've done nothing but watch cartoons and eat cookies for months. So she and I have this ceremony every day at 3 p.m. and we read together, and it's beautiful. And there's a
Nice.
lot of that happening. There's family bike rides. There's baking. There's of course DIY projects and things that we're doing around the house,
Yeah.
which are definitely keeping us balanced and happy, um, as much as those external things can. And then the flip side to that is sometimes waking up in the morning and feeling like, why am I even getting out of bed for another life of Zoom calls and Instagram lives and, you know, trying to sell sofas to people? It's like, what's happening right now? This is not my reality. But it's we're sensitive people, and I think and we're a sensitive family, our little tribe here, and I think that we definitely have nothing to complain about, and we understand that, and we understand sort of the backlash against celebrities standing in their $5 million kitchen and telling people what to do. So we've taken a stance of we can only do what's best for our family and best for the businesses that we care about and the
Yeah.
people we care about and the organizations we care about. But beyond that, don't really have any advice. I think everybody's struggling to do their very best at the moment. And
Yeah.
obviously, Headspace is a huge part of that. And I'm grateful to be here with you today. So thank you for having me.
Thanks, Nate. That's really, really kind of you. I
Sure.
think, although you say you don't have anything like in terms of advice, I think you have a lifetime of experience of understanding kind of what helps to create not just a house for people, but a home for people, right? And
Yeah.
what are the things that we can do in these spaces? And having spent a lot of time in my life living in just one room, like I know like how important the setup is and how that can influence how we feel
Right.
and how we kind of use that space. And what have you, is there anything that you've changed in your own life in the last 7 weeks
Well,
to
first of all,
make things, sorry.
yeah, no, not at all. I was listening to the story you were telling before I joined, and I was like hanging on to with every fiber of my being the antithesis of the Tibetan monk's advice because I was like, no, You can't calm the mind in a chaotic space. I don't believe it. That is a practice that is like so far down the road for me to try and like live in chaos.
Advanced practice.
It sounds like hullabaloo. I was like, what is even happening? But I will say this, you know, I've long understood for the past 25 years, I've understood the importance of home. And and more importantly, I've understood and capitalized on how deeply we feel a connection to our homes and how important it is that our spaces lift us up and tell our stories, that the choices that we make in our homes should reflect our deepest aspirations, our insecurities, our hopes and dreams, our past loves, the places we've been, the places we aspire to see someday. All of that can be encapsulated in the world of design and decoration. And I definitely practice what I preach in that since we've come to this home. We have moved furniture around probably every day, and we have rehung artwork in spaces that feel better, and we have taken the children down to the beach and collected rocks and placed them artfully on windowsills. Yeah. And we have even created a wall where we thumbtacked to the wood in our dining room of photos and memories of our family in much happier, freer times. And so I think that when your eye travels around your space, it is a great service to yourself to be able to let your eye land, give your eye the opportunity to land on something that really speaks to you deep inside your soul and in your heart. And that can be colors and fabrics, that can be objects that are brought back that have meaning from trips, but this sort of mindless decorating and listening to what the trends are and what colors are important of the season and what everyone else is doing has never been interesting to me. And I think that the population, now that we're spending so much time at home, not dissimilar to after 9/11 in the US, where people were not staying in hotels and flying and canceling trips, people are really now starting to absorb the energy that their homes have. And that is changing, I think, the way people feel, and also changing the way people are wanting to improve their spaces. And I'm right there for all of it.
Well, I love that. And it always surprises me kind of how it almost feels like it's as much about what's not there than what is there. You know, I've been in places. I lived in Russia for a long time. I was given a flat to kind of live in. I mean, it was so run down. I mean, like the wallpaper would flap as the breeze would come in through the window, and I spent a bit of time. I didn't have any money at the time. Spent a bit of time, and I didn't, because I didn't have any money, I couldn't really buy stuff. So it was more about working out like negative space and kind of playing with that, and just how much that can add to, again, the spaciousness in the mind that we have. And
100%.
And there's a few people asking, Nate. So people who are stuck in small apartments, applies to Manhattan especially, where everyone's kind of very condensed, but lots of big cities around the world. Are there any simple things they can do to create that feeling, you know, in the absence of kind of just getting rid of everything, like to create a greater feeling of space in where they are right now?
So I think, you know, one of the most important thing is really the edit, and to be sort of to sort of, as Dr. Mehmet Oz has said, we need to protect our borders right now, meaning the thresholds of our homes, to protect ourselves from disease coming in. But in that same way, we also have to protect ourselves from clutter and unnecessary things, and take a long, hard look around us in our space. And this is the time to edit. I don't subscribe to learning a third language at the moment. I don't think I need to finish Anna Karenina again. I you know, the pressure's sort of off. But I do think that there's really no reason for me to be and subject my family to living with things that just don't matter any longer. And so I sort of feel bad for our rubbish service that comes once a week here, because every week there's just piles of things. I mean, we donate what we can, but most of it's just junk. and
Yeah.
garbage. And so the first thing for anyone to do is wipe the slate. Um, I think, you know, there's a lot of companies online that are still shipping. There's a lot of really beautiful things from all over the world that you can still receive at home. Whether
Yeah.
that's a pair of new pillows made out of a vintage textile, or a beautiful vintage lamp, or even new bedding. You know, I think those small changes can really make a huge difference once the palette's been cleansed, and
Yes.
that's a hugely important thing for people right now.
Yeah. For people who are kind of nervous, who haven't done a lot of maybe stuff in the house, and I think that applies, you know, to a lot of us. Any tips on kind of being brave and pulling out a paintbrush and kind of getting busy in the house while some of us do have time?
I think that, you know, that question actually, that it my answer is the same answer I give young designers who come to me and ask for advice about what they need to be doing to start a career in design. And the same thing goes for a homeowner who maybe has no interest in design. But the most important thing in design are references. It's not money. It's not access. It's not, you know, being able to spend $10,000 on a sofa. It's knowing what sofas look good and what the arm shape looks like and what you should hang above it. And so my
Mm-hmm.
advice to young designers and my advice to people who are fear-based around making a change in their home is that take the time to go online. Lord knows we have it at the moment, but take the time to go online and assemble an album of imagery that really makes your heart sing, that you really feel deeply connected to, and start looking at all these interiors and the way that people have laid out the furniture. It's not just the sofa and the ottoman and the two chairs with the table in the middle. There's a lot of inventive ways to move around the things you already own. But if you don't have a knack for design and you've never done this before, then take that visual advice from sources and imagery that you find online and start trying it. I wouldn't recommend somebody buying a wall unit, you know, tomorrow morning, but I would
Sure.
recommend asking, you know, asking for somebody in the family or somebody to help them move some stuff around and try things in a different way, and then make a list of things that you could add to that are easy, as I mentioned before, to purchase online, and make sort of simple, small upgrades that'll make you smile.
I like that. I like it. What about if a bit more specific, but for obviously for a lot of headspaces, people who meditate on a regular basis at home, having some kind of, how do you think about having like regular spaces for different things in your home? Kind of, do you view the house as kind of, it's just a very flexible space, and one day you might use this area for one thing, the next day something else, or do you have kind of specific areas that you go to in your house that you associate with a place of relaxation or a place of reading?
I do. I do. And I think that that's
Yeah.
important. And one of the things that, you know, I think people can do is designate a space that is for reading or for meditation.
Yeah.
Take a chair, swivel it so that you're facing out the window, have a side
Yeah.
table there with your incense or your Palo Santo or whatever it is that you use, whatever ceremony you have for yourself, and make it easy for yourself. You give yourself a
Yeah.
surface to put your cup of tea down, or whatever, you know,
Yeah.
whatever you need. You know, I think it's important to designate spaces and craft spaces around how you use them or aspire to use them. By the same token, you know, I'm pushing everything out of our entry when I want to work out online,
Yeah.
because that's the only space that has a big mirror in our house right now. I didn't think I would be
Yeah.
trapped here. I always thought I'd be able to go to the gym. So, you know, sometimes by necessity you have to make the spaces work for you, and
Yeah.
that can be inconvenient. But if you can, the idea of taking that space and creating that reading nook, and, you know, the side table with the proper lamp on it that gives off
Yeah.
enough lighting but isn't too bright. That photograph in a frame on that table, that when you register that, reminds you of why we're doing all of these things, the people, whatever it is. I think that those moments are really, those ceremonies, those moments at home are really important. And I think it serves us better to have a space to do them in.
Yeah. I love that. I so often say the same thing. It's really important. Like in terms of setting up a routine, it's really helpful to think of same time, same place. At the same time, for most of us, like there has to be some flexibility,
Totally.
and it should never be a reason not to do it.
Right.
But when we can create a space, and I think there is a sense of energy that builds up, right? Whether we think of that as external energy or internal in our mind.
Yeah.
Once we associate, whether it's physical exercise, meditation, showing up at the same place each time, it somehow builds up a certain amount of momentum, I feel.
I agree. And also the space is there to receive you. Again,
Yeah.
it really is about, it's not necessarily about decoration, but it is about removing any potential obstacles to talk yourself
Yeah.
out of that in that split second of doing
Yeah.
that activity.
Yeah. How do you think about when people talk about sort of there's lots of different ways, but kind of energy, kind of in houses and different places and apartments, and like I think we've all had the experience where we've gone looking for a flat to rent or something like that. You walk into one, and you don't know why. You can't really say. It just doesn't feel right, and there's nothing obvious kind of about it. You walk into
Yeah.
another one, which may on the surface may not appear right, and yet it just has a good feeling. And I always kind of think it's interesting going visiting different, old buildings, and whether it's churches or temples, and all of these places, they have a different kind of feeling. As someone who designs homes, thinks about like, how do you view the energetic component of that?
I think it's massive, in good and bad. I think that I have a huge sensitivity to that as a person.
Yeah,
My husband as well. I mean, we've bought our last 4 or 5 homes together in a day. Like we knew the second we walked in
yeah,
the door, regardless of condition, we were like, of course. And I think a lot of what that comes from is obviously being open to those feelings and welcoming those feelings in, positive or
yeah,
negative, but also being able to picture living out your most mundane activities in the space and doing so joyfully because the space sort of has risen up to greet you. And, part of people sort of the dissent around that is that, oh, well, you're both decorators. You can walk into anywhere and know what you can do, and you know how much it costs, and you can do these
yeah,
renovations while we can. But I would argue that that though that does have something to do with it, what's more important is that we are both very sensitive to the feeling that we get from the energy of a space instantly. And we've also had to leave places, um,
yeah,
areas of cities that we've explored in South America, in Southeast Asia, where we felt the energy, hotels that we've checked into, where we felt the energy was so off. And we were also out the door that minute. Like this
yeah,
place was built on some sort of burial ground or whatever it was,
yeah,
but nothing just doesn't feel right. So I think it's one of the reasons why I'm not particularly happy on someone else's boat ever, because I feel like there's no room for the energy to move,
yeah,
and I find it really strange.
yeah. Yeah, it's always fascinating. I just, as I say, I don't. I always wonder as well if I walk into a flat and the feeling is not right for me personally, whether for the person behind the feeling is perfect. That
Right,
it's not it not necessarily be the flat or the apartment.
right.
Maybe it's just how each of us kind of connect energetically with the place that we're looking at as well.
Of course, and one could argue that that's based on a myriad of things. It could be
Yeah.
our previous life experience, where we've lived in the past, how we received that, any incidents or traumas that happened in different spaces around us
Yeah.
that we might have formed an association to. It's deeply, deeply personal. I think but it's real, and I think people
Yeah.
should listen to that. I've
Yeah.
actually advised clients of my design firm when we've met them initially and walked through the space, and I've heard everything that they don't like about the space and how they want to spend all this money to transform the space, and I've turned around and said, this space will never be what you're describing to you. You
Yeah.
like, all right, we could spend all the money in the world. I could
Yeah.
kill myself and my team with all these creative ideas. I see it, I see the vision, but the main things that you're describing about this space that you don't love will never change.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great. Great advice. Do you, when it comes to relaxation for yourself, I'm a firm believer that relaxation comes internally, but we can encourage it and we can cultivate it by the space sort of around us. What for you, when you think of your proverbial sort of happy place, where do you go to? What is that place?
You know, for me, there's a couple of things, and that's changed for me over the years. As I'm 48 years old, so that's changed a lot in different phases of my life. I think my happiest place right now is with my children. You know, in these sort of, I call them sort of the moments in between. There was a moment in New York City before the pandemic where our son had his first banana, and he was sitting on my lap on a park bench outside of a coffee place, and I practically asphyxiated from the pure joy of the moment. Like, I felt myself like turning into dust. Like, I was like, wow. But there's a few different things. Unfortunately, most of my happiest, most relaxing things revolve around travel and seeing things for the first time and finding myself dropped into a culture that I don't understand and don't know very well, and sort of navigating through that. So I've been trying to find replacements for that since we've been in quarantine.
Yeah. What about in terms of home? You know, like, I remember when I used to travel a lot, I'd always have a really small kind of setup. It's normally based around meditation. I mean, I was a monk, so it's not a big surprise, but I would have like a little shrine, and it didn't matter whatever room I went into, whether it was, you know, and anything at all. The first thing I would do, I'd unpack my bag, I'd do that, and then that felt like home to me, kind of, in that once that little bit had been done. Do you have any little kind of rituals like that kind of
mine are massively sweeping. Mine encompass the entire space. I'm such a homebody. I'm so the home is so important. The details of homes are so important, and none is more important than mine. And so I mean, I have to make the bed every morning. It has to be perfect, with the pillows just sort of thrown artfully. You know, I'm a joke. The bookshelves, you know, have to be, the things have to be perfect. I have to, I organize all the sort of lotions and colognes and things like that on the bathroom counter every day. So, I mean, I definitely have systems around every space in the house and how I like that to be. One thing that has become very important to me that I never used to do was my husband sets the house at different times of the day with lighting. He'll turn off certain lamps and add some things on dimmers, and he lights candles every day around the house. And there's always music playing every day in our home. And so that was something that never occurred to me. I used to pad around these beautiful spaces without music, without scent, and now both of those things become really important.
It's a really interesting thing, isn't it? Like, so often, kind of design, we kind of think of it in terms of purely sort of through our eyes, rather than the sort of full sense experience.
Right, definitely. And you know, that sensory addition of smell, which obviously everyone knows is so powerful, and also mood, being able to control the mood through lighting, through angles and things like that, incense and Palo Santo and all of that. You know, I had never bought incense or I had candles, but they went on the table when I entertained, not at 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning. And there's something really beautiful about the ceremony of that. And it's something that I'm grateful to Jeremiah for bringing that into my world.
I love that. It's really, really, really nice. And look, there's loads of love on here for you, Nate. By the way, lots of people who've said how helpful you've been, how inspiring you've been. You know, just I think obviously you've been a part of people's lives on TV for a really, really long period of time.
Yeah.
So you know, they have that relationship with you. But yeah, just lots and lots of people saying thank you
So
to
nice.
you here.
Hi, everybody.
So Nate, every morning we've been getting together and just kind of hanging out and having a chat like this, and then just doing a really short exercise. And the idea is that we come together and take a small amount of time out to sort of just step out of whatever's going on in our immediate surroundings, whatever's going on in the world. I don't know if you'd like to join us. You're welcome to, if you
Me?
would. Yeah, you
Oh,
can.
happily.
You can.
Yeah, of course. I'm in.
That would be great if you would. You're welcome to stay sitting. You can lie down if you like. Whatever's most kind of comfortable.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. As always, for you guys at home, lie down, sit down, whatever is most relaxing. And I think the wherever you are, whatever your kind of immediate environment, obviously we're going to close our eyes in a minute anyway. And so you may kind of think, well, if I'm going to close my eyes, what difference does it make? I don't know what you think, Nate. I personally, kind of coming back to that sense of energy, I feel kind of energetically, we feel kind of what's around us. And again, it's not an excuse, just if it's messy, it's not a reason not to meditate. But I do think if we can find, even if it's a corner of a room, and just declutter that corner and have that as our space that we come back to each day, I think it's a really helpful thing. So we're going to start with our eyes open. So soft focus, just taking in the space around you. And whenever you're ready, just starting off with a big deep breath, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. And as you breathe out through the mouth, just gently closing the eyes if you'd like to. And just taking a moment to land. So just taking a moment just to let the body sink down, that feeling of weight against the seat or the floor beneath you. And just enjoying that moment of having stopped, having paused. And as you sit there or as you lie there, just noticing how the body feels today. So normally we're so busy we tend not to notice. So any sense of heaviness or lightness in the body. Any sense of stillness or agitation in the body. And then just slowly starting to notice the breath, the movement of the breath. So no special breathing required. Simply noticing as the body breathes, what parts of the body move with the breath. So you'll probably feel it in your chest or your diaphragm, your stomach. As always, if you can't feel anything, just gently placing your hand on your stomach. And we're just going to rest the mind there. Just for a few breaths. So allow any thoughts to come and go. I'm not trying to clear the mind. We're just noticing when we get distracted. And in that moment, just letting the thoughts go. And coming back to the breath again. And we'll just stay here for a few seconds more. And just reminding yourself this is a place you can come back to at any time throughout the day today. And now they're letting go of that focus on the breath. Just coming back to that feeling of weight and contact against the seat or the floor beneath you. gently open your eyes whenever you're ready, and before moving, just always take a moment just to notice how it feels in the body, notice how it feels in the mind. And the more often you do that, the more likely you are to then come back and repeat the exercise again the next day. Thanks again, Nate. I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you. My pleasure.
I'm wishing you and your family well over there in New York State, and all of you at home, wishing you well. And I look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow morning for Take 10. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Nate.
Thank you.